And it's easy to measure whether you got there or not. Whereas the rest of us, life is more grays. Who's going to tell you you're the best father in the world? It's up to you to go to sleep at night and know just what a father you are. So he says to me, so you can see what I'm asking. The question is, are you living your life that way now? So you can't do any day a fingernail better. And I said, can I have some time to think about that? I want to get back to you on that. And then Chris died, and I never did talk to him again. Then my mom died, and then I turned 60. And I'll tell you something, it was a moment of existential anxiety. 60, my mom just died at 82, and I'm thinking, is it possible that I only have 22 years left to live? What am I doing? You know the Mary Oliver quote? It's my favorite question. You know, to just pick up the mirror one day and you ask yourself her question. What are you doing? What is it you're doing with this one wild and precious life of yours? And when I asked myself that question, it wasn't about, you know, is your name in enough record books? Are you know, making bunches of money? Are people patting you on the back for how great you are? It was what we started this conversation today with is, who are you? What's your character? Are you proud of yourself? Are you walking around with those shoulders high like a champion? And I had to answer the question that I was not living with some unrelenting, unwavering passion, and I wanted to feel that. And I was driving my car one day that summer, it's 2009, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I know what I'm going to do. Will the shoulders be there? Will the will be there? I don't know. But I'm going to go chase that Cuba dream that was always in my heart. And I started back training, and I remembered immediately how long those hours are. You know, I did countless. And of course, it became a 4-year dream. I thought it was going to happen in 2010, the summer. But, you know, all those variables we started to talk about, it's so hard to get them all together in 1 2 to 3 day period for you to make it across that channel. And I started training again 8-hour swims, and then 12-hour swims, and then 20-hour swims. Swims that most marathon swimmers don't even do in their lifetime for their career. And I have a lot of respect for anybody who swims the English Channel. But this is extreme. It's at a whole different extreme level. You can imagine what the body goes through, just, you know, that duress of persistence. You're in salt water, you don't feel well, it's hard to take in the nourishment that you need to take in. The mind, you know, is sort of boggled with the sensory deprivation. I never compare myself to other sports and athletes because I'm so in awe of the Mount Everest climbers and the Tour de France riders, you know, all of the endurance sports. But the one difference here is that you've got tight caps over your ears and fogged goggles over your eyes, so you're not looking and you're not hearing, you're just with your own thoughts all those hours and lonely hours, and it takes tremendous inner strength to keep it together and keep it going. I have a whole bunch of counting techniques in different languages, but also have a playlist of maybe 85 songs. And it's so kind of comforting to be in them and know that your particular rhythm and cadence of your stroke is exactly 4/4 time like the songs that I like. And I can count, for instance, if I sing to myself, now no headphones, I'm just singing to myself in the water. If I sing Janis Joplin's version of Bobby McGee, exactly, and I hear her voice, I hear the guitar, I hear everything about that version of Bobby McGee. If I sing that 1,000 times in a row, and so, you know, I'm out there, it's nighttime, I'm just cruising along, I don't see the boat well, I don't see anything, I'm just out in the middle of the wild blue ocean, and I'm singing, busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train, feeling about as faded as my jeans were. And right to the end. La 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 la. La 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 la. Hey, hey, hey. Bobby McGee. 665. Busted flat. And when I get to 1,000 Bobby McGee's, I've got 9 hours and 45 minutes to the second. Not a minute before and not a minute after. So that's what I'm doing out there. You know, not to mention, you know, after a while, the concrete mind that's counting and keeping it together and singing and knowing every 90 minutes you're going close to the boat to get your nutrition, to talk to your people. There's also, you know, the mind, woo! I like to read astrophysics for the layperson, and before this last Cuba, the final swim, I was reading Stephen Hawking the night before. And as most astrophysicists believe today, he writes in his book, you know, and the moment before the Big Bang, all of the matter and the energy of this universe was literally in the size of 1/1,000,000th of a penny, literally. And then the nuclear fusion, the bang that happened, spat it all out into what we see today, and we, our lucky little Earth, wound up at a certain distance from the sun, and that's how life happened. And I'm reading that, just blows my mind the night before the swim, but imagine being out there under 1 billion stars, and you start looking around saying, whoa. And you know what? They say those stars aren't even really there anymore. We're just seeing the light from those stars that used to be there billions of years ago. That's how long the light's taking to get here. And pretty soon you're just in an astronomical frenzy out there in your mind. The jellyfish that used to be there, the Portuguese men of war, they're not pleasant if you've been stung by them. You scream out, you yell a couple of good obscenities. But the box jellyfish that have arrived there now because of global warming and oil spills, etc., that's the most deadly animal in all of our oceans. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And when I was first stung by them, I thought I was a hot, burning paraffin fire. I was screaming out, "Bonnie, help me! I'm on fire! I'm on fire! I'm paralyzed! I can't move! My hands are going like this!" And I swam for 24 more hours after that sting. Yeah, but I was debilitated. That massive sting, and I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but the tentacles were wrapped all around my neck, up and down the biceps, around the insides of the thighs, all across the back. And you know, it's a venom that takes you down. It's usually a fatal sting. More people have died from the box jellyfish sting than have shark attacks in the history of mankind. And the next night I was stung again. And by the next morning, I'm swimming slowly. I'm swimming sort of crab-like instead of with a nice strong pool. I don't know. I just figure it's going to take us much longer to get there. And at the end of 51 hours on that particular attempt, we were way out here to the east. And now this tangent, as I was telling you, has now gotten to be about 180 miles more from where we were. And the navigator came down and talked to me and said, "Diana, how do you feel about going to the Bahamas? Because that's where we're going now." And I said, "Not good. I want to go to the United States, my home." So the 5th time came around. And by now, everybody has stamped this swim impossible. My best friend, my head handler, Bonnie, says, "Look, if it could have been done, you would have done it. It's clear. It's too dangerous. It's unfathomable. And there's too much out there, and nobody is ever going to make this swim." The marathon swimming community said this swim is not possible. We can't put it on the radar. The sports science people weighed in from all different parts of the globe and said, "We've done the math. We've calculated the hours and the distance. The human body cannot make this swim. But what they forgot is that the human spirit's involved too. And that whole last year of training, and my team, you know, they stuck with me, but you know, each week they'd have a different idea. They'd say, you know, I was just looking at a map of Guam. It's just lovely this time of year. How about the Maldives? Have you considered swimming the islands? But no, it was always about Cuba. In that last year of training, I had a Teddy Roosevelt quote on my desk. And I don't know if you know this, or paraphrase it briefly, but it says, you go ahead. You just sit in that comfortable armchair of yours and you be the critic. You be the analyst. And you watch this guy who's in the ring get bloodied and get dirtied and get pummeled and fall and fail and fail and fall over and over and over again. You go ahead. You know what, me? I'd rather be this guy in the ring, even though I fail every time. And I was reading that, and I said to Bonnie, because she didn't want to go, she's my main lifeline, and she didn't want to see me die, and she didn't want to fail again. And she's asking me, how many years are we going to do this? And I said, but this year, I haven't come to the nth degree. You know, every expedition has discovery, has science, has innovation. And now I've got a prosthetic mask to wear for the jellyfish. We had already covered, you can't use neoprene, but we already covered the body in a tight, thin sort of sprinter suit, and latex surgeon's gloves. All this stuff is difficult to swim with. And now, I don't know if you saw the pictures of it, but it's an haunting sort of latex mask, silicone latex mask. And now, even though that was difficult to swim with, I took in a lot of salt water and I vomited in the mask all through the nights, both nights. There was something new. We're not going to go back and ram our heads up against the wall. And Bonnie said, I'm not going. You are never going to make this. And I said, so what if we don't? She said, oh, I guess I got the wrong idea. I thought that's what our goal actually was, to make it to the other side. And I said, no, I agree. And there's always this debate of, you know, in our lives in general, is it the journey or is it the destination? And the Greeks weigh in heavily with that. It's the journey. It's who you are in the journey, and it's your, you know, it's your steadfast, and it's your digging down deep to take that journey. But I am so shallow to tell you that the destination can be very sweet as well. So I said to Bonnie, let's say we don't make it. I'd rather be that guy in the ring who fails again, instead of sitting home saying, would have, could have, should have, and watch somebody else achieve my dream. The second night, I was in trouble. I was kind of hanging on mentally by a thread. It was cold, I was starting to shiver. There was a huge electric lightning storm that came up, and I was separated from the boats. I'm out here with the shark divers. They're never allowed to touch you, but they formed a circle about the size of this blue area of the stage, and I'm in the middle, and they're just hanging on. A couple hours go by, and when we reconvene after the storm's done over here, and the cardinal rule, for me anyway, is that I never want to be told how close we are. You know, somebody can look at a GPS and say, hey, we've gone 70 miles, we're getting there. Well, you have no idea what's going to happen between that moment and what it's going to take to get to the other side. So I'm never told, you know, how many miles we've done. And that night, as we came back to the boats and I was really shivering, I needed to get swimming again, Bonnie was about to give me a hot drink. And just before we went, she doesn't usually do this, but she says, look, come here, look over there, right on the horizon, take a look, do you see that white light? And I did, there was like a white filament, and I said, oh, great, the sun's coming up. I get to take all the jellyfish off, I'm gonna feel better, I'm gonna feel the warmth of the sun. And she said, that's not the sun, those are the lights of Key West. And yeah. was a sweet 15 hours. It was still a long way, but it was sweet, and I was no longer singing, no longer counting. I was just thinking about the fingernail story and Chris Reeve, and my dad and the world champion, and my mom no longer with me, and all these people with a couple hours to go. The 44 of them came with their boats close by, and I looked up. It was hard to talk because I had deep lacerations all in the inside of the mouth from saltwater exposure and from that mask. And I told them how much I loved them and how much they had sacrificed. And when we got to that beach, as I said earlier, this was our victory. We made history. I didn't make history. And so on the walk up to that beach, I was pretty dazed. But I remember asking myself that Mary Oliver question one more time. I was walking up slowly, and my sea legs were hard, and I said, what is it you're doing with this one wild and precious life of yours? And I could answer it. And I hope, even though I'm not religious, I can answer it again the day it comes for me to leave this earth. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to close my fists, and I'm going to say, you know what, I couldn't do everything. Life's too short. I couldn't help all the people I'd love to help. I couldn't go all the places I'd love to go. We all make our choices what we're going to do with these fleeting years of ours, but that last day, I'm going to say to myself, it didn't matter what you did, you never, ever gave up.